Yeah, I've been up for about an hour now. It's nearly midnight, and I was tired around 7, so I got some sleep. But I fear now that I'll be awake until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning because I feel refreshed now. Um, but I guess I just wanted to report how my day has been, and I guess um, tell on myself in some way. Um, because a lot of my thinking I don't attribute to psychosis. There's still a part of me that believes that I'm onto it, so to speak. I've got the key or the secret to um, unlock not only the universe, but um, the key to a substantial win on the lottery by playing this game. And to give you some idea of what I get up to, it's like I've got my iPod, um, and something will trigger it. It'll be something random. Um, um, like on this particular occasion, it was an individual, that I saw at the superstore, and I started to speculate, if I knew her, and I tried to mentalize, um, if she was a part of this game, and that's where it built from, and there were a couple other incidents. I won't go into any more detail, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that I ended up engaging in, thinking that leads to psychosis for more than an hour this afternoon. And it felt like a little kid. I felt like a little kid, on his way to the fish and chip shop, or, somewhere that made him feel great. And I guess I have a certain amount of attachment to this game playing, um, because I created it in the depths of psychosis, and I still feel as though, um, that it is worth heralding, so to speak. You know, um, and reality is other people are aware of this game. It's not something that I I guess when I started to engage in this kind of activity, I was hearing voices in my head, and I wanted to test them to see if they could hear my own thoughts. So reality is I started to play this game. And for me, I never knew what game playing was or mind games were until I went to rehab at the age of 24. And then I heard the concept of people playing mind games, and I thought, what the hell is this all about? I had no idea at all. I'd been traumatized playing games as a small child, and for me, I guess that kind of activity, if it had remained in the fore of my conscious, would have led to dissociation. So I can look back and see now how, when people were engaging in this kind of activity, I just detached from it and slipped into neutralism, where I was neither here nor there. I just become permissive and agreeable, to avoid agitating anyone else, because that could lead to depersonalization, and then, it could lead to fatality or something along those lines. So yeah, and I'm really starting to see how when I engage in this kind of activity, um, how infantile it is, and how it's like, and this is the revelation this afternoon, how it's like I want someone else to share in my psychosis. And then all would be luxury and splendor, the same way as it is, when I slip into my inner realm. It's like Little House on the Prairie. There's always a happy ending. And, I come out and in front all the time. And, that isn't happening anymore. Um, being fixated with this particular delusion, has led me to a disability support pension. Because I refused to let it go or turn it over. I thought if I was to mention this to anyone else, firstly, it could lead to fatality, and secondly, the selfish and greedy aspect of it. I didn't want to let anyone else in on the secret formula, so to speak. So my head can reaffirm that kind of notion, in the sense it can say things like, you only have to believe. And it's done that on numerous occasions, whenever I've purchased lotto tickets and things along those lines. It's a little bit like telling a kid, that Father Christmas is real. That's the kind of affect I experience. I can see now that I've been open about it with others. It's sort of like the glamour and sheen has worn off to a certain degree. It was still riveting and captivating and intriguing and alluring. All those things that go along with, mystique and basically I can see now that how as a child, I was traumatized on 3 occasions that are significant. One was at the hands of my mother at the age of 18 months old. I didn't forgive her until another trauma at the age of 4 and a bit, and then, I realized I was dependent upon her for shelter, care, protection, and love. And, the third one, where I remember a great deal more content is, I went through this thought process once I was triggered, where I experienced, a megalomaniacal rush or frenzy, where I thought my self-worth was so important that I thought I'd be ushered into the world of adults as an equal, and I was so confident in that that I was experiencing a sense of triumphalism, that was divine in nature. It was pure ecstasy. But, it didn't take place. It led to triggering someone else who thought that I was trying to usurp their status and authority. Um, a rivalry had been triggered between my older brother and I, or a rivalry had been triggered within me, and that's who I wanted to outmaneuver, so to speak. But I had triggered an older cousin, who thought that it was all about him. So what I'm trying to say is, that kind of thought process still occurs for me, because while it's de-intensified, I still get the same kind of magical gleefulness, when I think about collecting my prize, and how, beneficent or munificent I'm going to be in sharing some of that money, and it's all just fanciful. It's a way for me to overcompensate for the fact that in reality, there's not one action that I can take, that isn't self-seeking in some particular manner. So I'm not quite ready to enter into a monastery and dedicate my life to, a spiritual enterprise. If anything, I'm a little skeptical of those kinds of aspects of reality. But I guess I've got to surrender to the fact that this is my lot in life, so to speak upon these matters. Not as though I'm an authority, but just to let others know, I guess, that to stay well, I've got to tell on myself, so to speak. So I'm only just starting to find the courage to do that, and as a result, I feel more grounded in reality. I feel as though my acceptance of my mental illness is good, even though I've had some feedback, and that's a positive thing about the voices in my head. At times they can suggest that I am engaged in psychotic activity or psychotic thought processes. It's rare, but it does happen. So in some ways, I am finally developing feelings and memories in regards to what it's like to have some sort of self-worth, if that makes sense. After these particular traumas as a child, I lived totally in my inner realm, so to speak. I was detached from my physical being. That's the thing about the trauma, that I mentioned, where I had a megalomaniacal rush or frenzy, that thought process that led to triumphalism, the feeling of triumphancy, was so grand in nature that it was all in my head, so to speak, and I was in a state of derealization. That's been the big revelation over the last 10 days or so. So finally getting grounded. I'm not real sure what else to say. Even as I went to make this post, there were a few warnings, or one particular warning, don't reveal too much. It kills them. So sometimes I feel as though I've got a whole host of people attached to me, with personality disorders and things along those lines. So my intuition is getting better in life. Where I can, whereas I used to get triggered by oddity, I can now think to myself, this person may be in, a disordered person, may have a mental disorder. Not everyone's mentally ill. They just have personality disorders. But I'm getting better at intuiting that sort of stuff without getting overwhelmed by it. I'm not paranoid about making judgments anymore. So please subscribe, leave something in the comments, and I think I will start changing my heading on my videos to PTSD and mental illness. And when I feel like I'm having an episode, I'll change it back to mental illness and PTSD. Something along those lines. I don't know. I'm still just trying to figure all this stuff out. An old vagabond. So please subscribe and leave comments below. I'll try and respond to them. There's not much activity at present, but you never know. Okay, thank you.